What are you celebrating in your organization? By the end of this podcast, you're going to have 3 keys to making sure that you're celebrating the right things in your organization. I'm Jono White, founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We work with leaders around the world, and welcome to the Leadership Question of the Day podcast with Jono White. And I'm looking forward to sharing those things with you. Hey, thank you so much for following and subscribing and liking and sharing. It really helps us to get the word out so that more leaders can become the best they can be. And so I just want to thank you for that, and it means a lot. And if you have a chance, if you do that right now, subscribe or follow, like or share, be appreciated. So let's come back to the question for today. What are you celebrating in your organization? The reason I ask this question is what gets celebrated gets cultivated, and this question has really burnt me before, and in a good way. I remember when someone asked this question in a leadership conference, and I thought about it and I went, oh no. In my context, I realized, what one of the things is that I celebrate more than anything else. It's when we find a really cheap way of doing something, and so we manage to keep under budget. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, keeping to budget is important. It's an important part of leadership. But what you celebrate the most gives you a glimpse into what's most important for you in your organization. What you celebrate the most is what will be communicated to your stakeholders, whether that's your customers, whether that's your employees and volunteers. It will communicate to them what is most important to you and most important to your organization. So the question for me as a leader was, do I want the people that I'm leading to see saving a few dollars here and there to make sure we hit budget in terms of our spending to be the most important thing? Absolutely not. And instead, I know, when it comes to what's most important, I knew that I was looking for some stories of people whose lives were transformed and changed. So for you, what are you celebrating in your organization the most? Think about it. When do you get most excited? What do you make a big deal of in public? What do you make a big deal of privately? Hey, John, I just wanted to say thank you so much for blah, blah, blah. Because we all have our natural go-tos, right? We just naturally go to certain things. And now let's flip the script and actually go, okay, well, if that's what you're currently doing, what is most important in your organization? Or to put it a different way, what does it look like when your organization has the ultimate win in the area of vision? So everything that you want to see, which always comes back to people's lives being improved. At the end of the day, making the world a better place, there'll be a version of that. You'll have a vision that's specific and unique, but it will be some sort of making the world a better place. If it's not, then your company probably shouldn't exist. So every company makes the world a better place or makes a difference in people's lives somehow. So what does that look like for you? And when does that happen? Can you think of a variable? Can you think of a KPI, a goal that shows when that happens? For example, you might be an organization in the IT industry and you really help big corporates do the transformation process. And so for you, an example of this might be, everyone's always talking about how the older generation in the workforce can struggle, but you know there are stories where not only are the older generation in a workforce that you're working with getting up to speed, but they're actually going light speed ahead of the younger generation because of how well your company does the transformation process. These people are now leading in this area of IT within their company. Okay, so if you're in IT transformation, boom, there's a story. So how can you find those stories? And that's the sort of story that you want to celebrate. So when your staff come back to you, or when one of your staff members invests some extra time in helping get a win for someone in an organization to get on board, that's the sort of thing, just as an example, where you want to be screaming from the rooftops, celebrating them, going publicly, how good is this? Privately going to them and saying, I just want to say thank you, rewarding them, and actually saying, hey everyone, we just wanted to send Bob on a trip for a few days just because we've heard this and this about his performance, with how he's gone the extra mile in helping some of the people in this workforce to transform and get on board with IT. And Bob, that's exactly what we're all about. So you publicly bring some recognition, give a literal reward to that, so that everyone in your organization knows that's what's most important. That's what I need to be doing, is helping to see transformation. That's an example. What is it for you? What does it look like when it comes to vision for organizations? So I said I was going to give you 3 tips around celebrating the right things. So I'm going to make these really quick and really simple. The first tip I want to say, or the first key to make sure that you're celebrating the right things, is to do a review of what you're celebrating now. If you're a leader with an executive team, next time you meet, just spend 20 minutes, it doesn't take long, and say, hey guys, I was listening to this leadership podcast talking about what we celebrate. I'm interested to know from your perspective, what gets the most attention here? What do we celebrate the most? Like, what do we publicly celebrate? What do all of us tend to privately, send people thank you, that's awesome, and what do we reward? And do a bit of brainstorming, because you might be shocked to find out what it is. Or you can even go across your whole organization and ask them, do a survey and say, from your perspective, what gets celebrated? Because we really want to make sure we're celebrating the right thing. So we just want to do a bit of research internally to see what you're experiencing, so that we can then make any changes and make sure that we're celebrating the things that are most important. So do a review. That's the first tip. The second tip is public recognition. So public recognition is massive, and public recognition is so easy to do. It doesn't have to cost money. Public recognition can be an email that goes out to everyone, from the CEO or from the exec team. Public recognition can be in the team meeting that you're a part of or that you lead, where you point someone out. Public recognition can be at a presentation to all the staff. Public recognition can be where you have a staff meeting anyway, and you just put it into the agenda every time, 5 minutes, where you publicly recognize someone for something that is most important in terms of what the company's doing. So how are you doing public recognition? Because that's a big one. Once you've done your review, which should involve, and you will have a pretty good sense of what you want to celebrate at some level. Even the really basic thing of just thinking, okay, what does our ideal person look like? Who's that employee that you go, if everyone was like Bob, everything would just be so good because he embodies everything good about our organization. Well, what does Bob do, and how can you celebrate it publicly whenever Bob or anyone else acts like Bob? So public recognition, just find some really simple ways, and if you can make it paid, even better. If you go, oh Jono, this is so helpful, I'm thinking of this really obvious thing all of a sudden that is already part of our KPIs. Okay, well, attach a reward to it. Work on something where you go, okay, in the next 3 months, the top 3 people in this area of KPIs, because it's so connected to our vision, we're going to send on an all expenses paid blah. If you've got the money to do that, put a massive reward on it and say, this is what matters, guys. And we want to actually put our money where our mouth is and buy you a MacBook or an iPad, or send you on a trip when this KPI gets smashed, because this is what our organization is all about. And so that's the second one. So that the first tip is do a review, either just with your team or across your staff. What do you guys think we're celebrating? The second thing is to make some changes in public recognition, which can be really easy. You can do it with lots of expense, where you blow everyone away, or you can do it for free if you don't have the resources to do that. And the third one is private recognition. Private recognition is in some ways even more powerful than public recognition. Why? Because if you're the CEO, the more layers there are in your organization, the more people there are in your organization, the more private recognition is going to mean coming from you. And a great example of this is the Home Depot past CEO who would actually write a handwritten letter. He'd write about 100 a week to people who had done extreme examples of customer service across Home Depot, 300,000 staff, and he would write them a handwritten letter just thanking them for how they'd gone above and beyond. How did he get those stories? That's another question that is part of his brilliance as a leader that we can all learn from. Because you've actually got to create a system to be getting fed those stories, to be able to have 100 stories coming to you where you can legitimately be sending a handwritten letter. So what can you do as private recognition? The next time you notice, let's use Bob again, the next time you notice Bob go above and beyond, shoot him an email. The next time you notice, give him a quick call, depending on how big your organization is. Write a handwritten letter and just point it out and just say, hey, I just noticed this and this, and I just wanted to say thank you, and I just think that's awesome, and that's exactly the sort of organization we want to be. Thank you for embodying that. Thank you for helping us to be the sort of organization we want to be. It means more than you know. This is so meaningful to people because people often get so little of your time, particularly in larger organizations. You might have an organization of 1,000 staff, and you might be the CEO, and that person might get a couple of words with you at the Christmas party, and that might be it. So if you get some feedback that they're going above and beyond in an area that's like bang on vision or values, then picking up the phone and giving them a quick call for 5 minutes and just saying that is something that could stick with them for years. And how much of your time did it take? It took you the time to find out from their direct report, or through your team meetings or through your systems. So it took that time to find out, and it took you 5 minutes. And what you're doing is, you know what they'll go and do? They'll go and talk to the people that they work with, and they'll say, you won't believe this, but Sally, the CEO, called me yesterday. I couldn't believe it because I never hear from her because she's so busy running the whole company, and she said this and this. And suddenly you are spreading a message, you're spreading a rumor, but a good rumor, about what your company believes in. And how simple is that? 5 minutes. So there are 3 tips for you. Once again, do a review. Start with your team, but if you have the resources, review through your whole organization. Public recognition. What can you change tomorrow? If you've got a staff meeting tomorrow, who can you point out who's just nailing vision and values, and just publicly recognize them? And just make a big deal of them and what they've been doing. Some people will always get annoyed at public recognition because they're insecure and because there are deeper issues. So just ignore that and just give public recognition where you can. And the third thing is private recognition. Okay, that same person, maybe rather than the staff meeting, maybe it's about even sitting them down over a coffee and investing that time and just saying to them, you know what, I just wanted to take you out just to say thank you. Like whatever it is, something private. An email, phone call can be as little as that, or it can be taking them out for a coffee or for lunch and just saying thank you. It doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be super long, but private recognition over the things that matter. Once you've worked out what they are, this is just like pouring kerosene on the fire of your vision for your organization. It will just help it to explode across your organization and for your stakeholders. So if this has helped you to get clear in your leadership, then wherever you're watching or listening, comment with the word clarity. Everything we do is about helping people get clarity in their leadership. And make sure, once again, thank you so much for subscribing and following, liking and sharing. It really helps us out because it gets the word out so that more leaders can become the best they can be. So we really appreciate that. If you have a chance now to do that, that would be awesome. And also, in the description there should be a bunch of different options that you can click on. We have some fantastic free resources. We have a What's Your Leadership Style free resource, takes less than 10 minutes, that gives you an email with a list of sort of to give you a bit of an understanding of your leadership style. We have one of how do you rate as a leader that's less than 15 questions, so about 2 minutes, and it'll tell you across the 5 key areas of leadership how you're going as a leader. Are you doing really well across them? Is there one where you really need to work on it? And so there are a couple of things we'd love to offer you to help you out. Plus, go to consultclarity.org. We have lots of great content on there. We've had just hitting 1,000 this week. As I'm speaking now, 1,000 leaders have done our 7 questions on leadership, and they're all up on our website that you can read. So thank you to the leaders who have done that. And if you're a leader and you would be interested in sharing your insights to help other leaders, then check that out as well, because we would love to have you involved. That would be awesome. So thanks for watching or listening wherever you are, and we'll catch up soon. Cheers.